Although there were no explosions or yelling headlines, the situation had the kind of subdued suspense that causes viewers to sag forward in their chairs. Consider this. Hollywood celebrities Rob Lowe and Jeff Bridges are among those attending Kevin Costner's charity event, where Prince Harry is performing as a nightman to commemorate first responders. The atmosphere ought to have been joyous, fluid, and refined. Instead, in front of hundreds of people and cameras, Harry and Meghan Markle engaged in a slight but distinct altercation. Not in the traditional sense of the word. No yelling, no running away. The awkwardness was in the gestures, the prolonged pauses, and the things that were not uttered. An organizer had given Harry the microphone, a blatant indication that he should be in the spotlight. But Meghan wasn't happy to stay in the background. Her smile was composed but strained, as if she were trying to claim a position that hadn't been offered, and she grabbed for the microphone once and then again. Instead of giving in like he so frequently has in the past, drew back the microphone, laughed it off, and carried on talking. No royal biographer could ever really convey what was said by that little argument over a basic microphone. A few seconds of poor body language summed up a power struggle. It was caught by the audience. It was captured on camera. Even the organizers reacted, moving anxiously, unsure whether to intervene or let the situation disintegrate on its own. An attempt was made by one female organizer to pass Meghan the mic, then quickly withdrew it, acting as though it had never been intended for her. The indecisiveness of the couple's dynamic was reflected in the uncertainty on stage. Once able to rule every room with ease, Meghan now appeared to be pushing her way into an area that wasn't hers. While Harry spoke firmly, but without his customary warmth, he strengthened his hold on the spotlight. It was a real-time glimpse of a marriage going awry. The story of them has been one of solidarity for years. They left of the palace together, going against the grain. They talked about becoming free and creating a new life according to their own rules. However, the image broke on that stage. Meghan's grin appeared too piercing. Her chuckle was too practiced. Harry had guarded closed-off body language. They weren't sync partners together. Instead of applauding, the crowd sank into an uncomfortable stillness as they competed for the same small area, unsure of how to respond. It didn't help that Meghan looked like spontaneous, even invasive. She wasn't designed to be the night speaker, and her presence seemed more like a planned disruption than an addition. Wrinkled clothes, forced grin, fast moves toward the mic. All of it suggested that someone was anxious to grasp a moment that was passing them by. Maybe sensing this, Harry stood his ground. Meghan stood clumsily by his side as he held the words, the attention, and the authority tightly. 12 insiders were reportedly prepared to support the harsh critique of Meghan that was just published by The Hollywood Reporter, which called her a tyrant in high heels. Rumors about her diminishing power in Hollywood had already been raised by her absence from other high-profile events, such as WME's Emmy celebration. In light of this, her attempt to control the Costner event came out as overcompensation rather than confidence. The crack became more visible the more she attempted to enter herself. Meghan wasn't the bossy one. In 2018, a person was trying to maintain an aura that was starting to fade. Meanwhile, Harry had his own problems. He was subtly reminded of the bonds he couldn't break as Meghan pushed forward. In an unexpected reference to a title purportedly taken away from him, the Ukrainian government recently addressed him as His Royal Highness in official communication. Harry can't escape the fact that was exposed by that delicate understanding. Regardless of how far the shadows of royalty continue to follow him as he steps into the California sunshine. That paradox was emblazoned on his posture on stage. One foot shackled to the old existence, one foot in his new one. The gap was simply widened by Meghan's insistence. This was more than simply a clumsy charity event night. It provided insight into the core of their conflict. Once unable to control attention, Meghan now found herself marginalized, disregarded, and even undercut. Harry, caught between allegiance and to his wife and commitments he pretends don't exist, clutched the mic as though it were more than just a tool for speaking. It began to represent individuality, power, and control. The world, seeing through cameras and whispers, couldn't help but notice how tightly he held on the more Meghan reached. The fallout from that stage moment didn't stay contained within the charity event. Through the media, social media, and the private networks of Hollywood insiders, who are always eager to analyze any hint of weakness, it spread like wildfire. Harry's was not the main focus, discourse or the issue at hand, but rather on Meghan's uncomfortable demeanor, the tug-of-war, and her body language. Almost instantly, clips of the incident started to circulate online, where they were slowed down, zoomed in, and examined frame by frame as if they were courtroom evidence. Some observers claimed Meghan's perseverance demonstrated how much she wanted the limelight to leave her hands, while others saw Harry's firmer hold on the microphone as evidence of a new change in their marital dynamic. The most revealing responses were not from late-night hosts or tabloids, but rather from the organizers themselves were silent. The embarrassing exchange went unanswered by any formal comment. No attempt to reframe the story or smooth things up. In Hollywood, where damage control is typically implemented within hours, that kind of silence says a lot. The lack of spin implied that the event's organizers didn't think it was necessary to preserve Meghan's reputation, or maybe they no longer thought it was worthwhile. It's a risky situation for someone whose whole public image depends on getting invited to those stages. Behind the scenes, Meghan's industry reputation was already being strained. Her own agency, WME, had thrown a high-profile Emmy party, and her absence from it had drawn attention. When a client fails to attend important networking events, an agency will not expend effort on their behalf. According to insiders, her Hollywood experiment may be failing, and her onstage conduct only served to heighten the sense of desperation. She used to be the embodiment of power and grace, but now every action seemed too planned, every grin forced. Even her once-praised fashion choices were questioned. She wore an unpolished and disheveled clothing to the Cosner event, a little feature that is enlarged by the rigorous scrutiny of changing public opinion. In contrast, Harry appeared to be making headway where Meghan was unable to. Although it was a modest hint, Ukraine's recognition of him as His Royal Highness was revolutionary from a diplomatic standpoint. Titles are never bestowed by chance. Harry, and possibly the rest of the world, were reminded that he still has influence outside of the realm of celebrities by his silent acceptance of his royal title. It underlined his unique status. The contrast between Meghan's unflattering reaction at home and the admiration he earned overseas, half in California as a free agent, half bound by centuries of tradition, created a powerful story. One edged out, the other was being raised. At the Cosner event, witnesses observed Harry's manner all through the evening. He seemed calm, even tired, but clearly in control of his position. Meanwhile, Meghan appeared to loiter in the background, smiling too brightly, coming forward unexpectedly, and lingering in unexpected places. People became aware of the disparity, and more significantly, they discussed it afterwards. Perception is what Hollywood feeds on, and it was evident. Meghan had lost her status as the main attraction. Rather than giving the she was now the unpleasant interruption on stage, and that change was much more significant than any headline could convey. The harsh article from The Hollywood Reporter simply fueled the flames. It implied that Meghan's inner circle was prepared to speak out against her, characterizing her as a douanier. Because 12 people allegedly lined up to support the charges, the article gained credibility that was hard to deny. In that light, her actions at the Cosner event appeared to be more confirmation of what detractors had said than an isolated incident. Been muttering for months. Meghan's decline in power was not due to misfortune. The charm offensive that had previously worked so well had become apparent and brittle, and she was losing it. There were other issues in Harry's case. That same evening, Richard Marx's wife mistook him for his brother, Prince William, highlighting the decline in his personal brand's once iconic prominence. It may seem insignificant to be misidentified at a celebrity event, but for someone who has dedicated their entire to It cuts deeply around recognition. Being known as the other prince rather than Harry brought attention to the fine balance he is attempting to achieve. He aspires to be both the amiable Californian and the esteemed monarch, but the two personas don't always mesh well. Harry and Meghan together painted a picture of inconsistency. Despite his efforts to reinvent himself, he held on to status symbols. The throng became uninterested, yet she still reached for attention. Everyone adopted the metaphor of the mic tug. But throughout the whole evening, the greater truth was inscribed. They were out of time. They were not invincible. Under the same lights that once made them untouchable, they were a couple out of rhythm. Furthermore, it is nearly impossible to recover the illusion of control once it starts to wane in the harsh world of Hollywood. Even though the stage lights were muted that evening, in the days that followed, the talk about Harry and Meghan only got louder. From glossy magazine pages to internet forums, the conversation swung toward a question that few had ever ventured to pose. Was the magic of the royal rebels finally gone? It wasn't an easy response, but it was getting difficult to ignore the fractures. What had formerly seemed to be a single front now seemed to be two people pulling in different ways, with one rooted in an unwavering royal identity, and the other striving to establish importance in a world that appeared to be progressing. Meghan's public image had changed from one of easy confidence to one of far more fragility, according to observers. She used to move effortlessly between charity events and the red carpet, captivating both crowds and photographers. Every look seemed strained now. Each gesture was made with a little too much purpose. The effortless charm that used to make headlines had changed into a demand for attention.